but I mean, it could basically be, it could be a sibling. It just happens to be the same thing. Here on this update title, you have all your subviews in the subviews hash always. That's something that Backbone subviews sets up for you. So this subviews name field get value from UI. So you're talking directly to your child. It's very easy to talk to children because you have explicit references to it. So talking to siblings is basically a message, and then the parent just talks, does whatever it wants with the child.
But do you really have to go to that route? I mean, there should be some better way to do it.
Well, I mean, you can use triggering. I mean, you can trigger and bind. I mean, you don't have to only use this, but we found that in order to keep things clean, that keeping that structure intact is helpful in order.
So let's save other questions for afterwards, so then we can have time to meet on our interests. So
okay.
If there's any last thing, go ahead and show up within.
Sure. So, well, I was going to show you guys how a message can percolate up through the hierarchy. So, in this case, hopefully I'm not going too fast here. Here we have, if I double click on this view, I need to be able, the dialog needs to be open up, and then I can say last name, I can edit it. And this is what I'm going to show you is that we can't do it with this actual field. Actually, in this application, these fields are the same as these fields. So we don't want, when we double click this dialog box to pop up again, obviously it's not a property of the field itself, it's a property of something higher than that. So the way we handle this is we say last name, this is long, I'm going to show you what happens, is that actually this whole section has to be re-rendered when something like that changes. So that is a concern of the section, it's not a concern of that particular child here. So what we do is we generate an event, we spawn an event when that is double-clicked, when that field is double-clicked, and it says label field is double-clicked, and then it percolates up through all these different views until it gets to the section where it's needed, who needs to listen to it. So I'll just go through, there are several different views that it percolates up through, so I'll just trace it through. So base field here, spawn messages, so that's a double click when my label div is double clicked, I'm going to send a message label double clicked. And then the next thing is the component, which just trust me, it's the next view in the hierarchy. So when it says the label is double clicked, and then it sends a message that says edit component, because anything above the component doesn't care about the fact that that label is double clicked. All it wants to know is that, all right, this is a message that I need to edit this component. So it's changing the message to something that's most relevant to its ancestor. So, and as we do that, there's like a little API that's created for each level of the view hierarchy that makes sense for that level of the view hierarchy. So edit component, and then you go, you have a new, and then it percolates up again, and here it gets the edit component and it passes it again, and this is the component list now the view we're looking at. And so it edits a component too, and it needs to tack on some more data. It says which component's edited. So the list says, okay, now I'm going to send this message, edit component, and I need to specify which component. So it takes that, it finds that from the source of the message, which is this property that's automatically populated in the message. Don't worry about it, it's not that confusing. It's just a lot to explain in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then, so it ends up getting up to the section next, which is where we want it, and because the section needs to re-render itself when this is all done, and it says, okay, edit component, when that comes from my collection list view, then I'm going to call my edit component message, or my edit component function with these parameters, the component to edit, and whether or not it's new, which is used for another case. So that's the example. There's also, I didn't have time, but there's also a way to do round trip messages. So there's a way to, which means there's a way to ask for information from the surroundings. Now, that's generally pretty bad practice, but there are some cases where you absolutely need to ask for information from your surroundings because it's dynamic information. You can't pass it in as a configuration option. So in general, views should always basically be as encapsulated as they possibly can. You should just pass all the information they need for themselves when you create them, but if it's dynamic information, sometimes you can't do that, and that becomes a problem because you don't want to put a hard dependency in there where the view is asking for a specific another object for information, so you can just bubble up a message until somebody handles it. So that's it.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
So, I see you're approaching Marionette.js with this. I was wondering if maybe you could compare it, contrast it to the publish and subscribe systems.
Yeah, it's quite different. I'd say, I mean, the pub sub is a very different sort of model. I mean, it's very good if you have, I think the use case for that, it's like one of these use cases that Lynn said, where you have tons of objects and they all want to listen to one particular event. So that's very good. I think PubSub it's a tried and true method also. I mean, it's Marionette is, I know Derek and the people who did Marionette, they built huge applications with this. I think it does become messy in some contexts, and so, you know, I think it's a use case in terms of when you do something like this, when you do something like Marionette.
I was wondering whether you can actually augment an API in the same pattern as Express.js, where the second and third parameters are optional, the second parameter being the data. The first parameter is the callback, the second parameter being the data, and the third parameter being the next. So that's sort of like the middleware for Express.js.
I'm not sure. Come talk to me afterwards. Maybe.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to limit the questions. So the whole point is after. The reason we're keeping these short is so afterwards you guys can find each other and dig into this stuff. We got at least an hour of time to do stuff like that. So yeah, thank you.